Hey, we're live. Oh my goodness. I was doing something else. Hey everybody.
Hello.
Chuck Cook, Greg Siskin, and Lily Axelrod. It's great to be with you. If Greg looks a little bleary-eyed, it's because we didn't quite catch the flights we wanted to catch home.
No, I caught my flight. It was the connection that was like 4 hours late.
That was the problem. Plus, I wanted to fly directly home, and Delta somehow doesn't have a flight after 6 o'clock. I don't know, but
I rolled in at about 3 a.m.
Yeah, I got in about 12:15, but we had to fly to Detroit. Now, for those of you not in the United States, and everybody thinks the United States is big, and it is big, of course, but it's only like an hour flight to Detroit. And then it's
Detroit
only
is not on the way from DC to Atlanta.
Memphis. So
Detroit is a good airport if you don't want to be stuck.
Yeah. So anyway, we're back, and Greg and I had a great time. Joanna, great to join us.
Jonna.
You guys can unmute yourself. There you go. Joanna's joining us. Jonah, I do this all the time.
Jonna.
Well, one of your parents probably didn't think about that, did they? It's like. So anyway, it's great to be with everybody. We want to go. Let's just start off with Go. Let me get the banner out. We got to do the banner. Let's talk about Go. So, Jonah, did you listen to that yesterday? Or
Jonah.
I listened to about half of it. I was mostly impressed by you, Chuck. You were very well prepared, great demeanor with the court. So I can cut to the chase on where we left off with the judge there, but I don't want to your thunder, Chuck. You were the one doing oral arguments for our team.
Well. We were able to meet beforehand for a few minutes with Rafa and Curtis, and I thought the division of labor.
It was a good team for all of us.
Yeah, so I think that we complemented each other. Fortunately, Curtis and their team, they had submitted massive amounts of documents that we did not submit because, frankly, I didn't think they were really that relevant. And at least at the end, it ended up coming up in quite handy for the judge. We submitted. You didn't see it. Nobody could see the hearing, but he literally walked up to the podium with this gigantic book. It must have been like 3,000 pages of paper in that one book, and they had many books. And I'm just there with my computer. I just got it right here, Judge.
Well, let me give a little background of why that turned out to be important, because we had the government, when we were presenting some pretty good good charts and data as to illustrate the points, rather than trying to dispute the data or try to argue why they weren't relevant, the government just said, well, this hasn't been submitted in the proper way and it has to be vetted and blah blah blah, and we haven't had a chance to do that. And as it turns out, all the data that we used had already been submitted in the Good Luck case, I guess, on there. So so Rafa at the end did us a nice favor, but just basically saying, I'm already all on record. So there.
I will tell you that in one of our briefs, though, we did cite to the CEAC statistics website. So technically, we did cite to the website that has all this data. But I thought it was kind of fun that the government's like, well, we don't know anything about this data. I said, well, Judge, it's literally from their website. I want to thank so many of our plaintiffs that contributed data, because we're not on the ground. You're on the ground. So the data that you generated for us, you didn't see the judge's expression when I actually put up a PowerPoint on the screens in the courtroom, and notice the government initially objected, but then never said a word.
Yeah,
because it's just literally like playing in front of it. One of my favorite charts was the one with the numbers issued in green, 3,000, 6,000 scheduled, and then a big giant graph of empty space. Judge, this is what they've done this year. His face he was clearly looking at it.
Yeah.
I think it had because I think visual impact, you could talk all you want, but you look at something visually, that is burned in his brain. It was the end of the day. He got it.
My impression was from the judge's body language, which nobody could obviously pick up on the recording, but the body language was very made me feel pretty good about how it went. Better probably than some of the people that were listening could tell. But the reactions to some of the government lawyers' arguments from the judge. He had a lot of expressions on his face of skepticism.
What did his expression look like when he took the actual language from Trump v. Hawaii and said, "This says the opposite of what you're using it for"?
Well, he just appeared very frustrated with the government lawyers. I mean, I thought for when Chuck and Rafa were up there, the judge was like, seemed pretty much, was intently listening and seemed like he was absorbing it all. And when the government lawyers were up, it was definitely a different vibe.
The government's, in a way, I don't feel sorry for them, but they already lost this case. I mean, they lost this case. They're trying to dig out from a gigantic hole, which is actually why today we just got a request from the court. And you may recall this from the beginning of the hearing. The government said, well, Judge, they may have had standing when a preliminary injunction was issued, like in Gomez or early on in this case, but they don't have standing now because we've changed how we're doing stuff. And the judge was like, yeah, you did change it. What? How do we know the plaintiffs are still injured? And well, first, they've only issued 3,000 visas when they should have issued 40,000 at this point, one. And then literally one of our plaintiffs listening live emailed me, Devin Kruger from South Africa, said, here's all the things I've done, boom, 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 boom. And I actually told the court that in my argument. And he's like, yeah, that's standing. But we have to submit the court at least one plaintiff. And Aaron, welcome. We're probably going to do several plaintiffs, including Brandon Go. We're going to need new declarations from several folks. We'll be in touch. But it's just, this is just to make – the judge wants to make sure – he wouldn't ask for this if he was going to deny the case, by the way. He wants to make sure that the ruling he makes in our favor sticks.
Yeah.
And that a big part of that is standing, which in layman's terms is, do you have injury? Are you injured? Were you injured by this? And can I fix it? That's what standing is. So, Aaron, what are your thoughts? I don't know how much you were able to listen yesterday. Aaron, you're muted.
I got to hear almost all of it. I was in rural Wyoming, so it was cutting out a little bit at some points. But you guys, Chuck and Greg, you did a great job, and the other lawyers did a great job. But yeah, I just saw the order from the judge about submitting some more documents on standing, and that's good. We'll get it taken care of. We'll be in touch with a couple of you about things we might need from you, but it's not going to be too hard.
Yeah, that's due on Friday, and I'd like to get that out long before Friday if we can. That would be great.
Chuck, I haven't seen that yet. Was it only for Go, or was it also?
I think. Well, I don't know.
For the Acker case too.
Oh, I think. Well, no, we didn't see it in Acker, and of course, technically, we do have 12 people left, but no, I didn't see it in Acker, because again, remember, Gomez is the class action, so he hasn't put it up in Gomez yet, so I'm not really worried about that. We're winning these cases.
Yeah, can you explain to people a little bit about sort of, I think there was some confusion probably, I mean, even with us, about a little bit about the end. It's not really wasn't our issue on the class action part of it, but that was something the judge spent some time with on the end, and I think it could probably confuse some of our plaintiffs. Does that have any impact how do you think that impacts the Go plaintiffs?
Well, the judge was quite concerned, as was the government. I mean, how can you as a lawyer file a class action which encompasses everybody except for people who sued in a certain district, and then file a massive case for people from the district? The judge asked him, how can you do that? How can you justify that? And Rafa explained how he felt it was justified. The judge said, why not just make this a class action? Mm-hmm. Well, I don't want a class action. We intentionally didn't file a class action because we filed for our plaintiffs. But as the judge noted, he doesn't need a class action. That's been our argument the whole time. The judge is going to reserve it with as many numbers as he possibly can. That will cover our plaintiffs and a lot of other people. You don't need to be a class action to do that.
What if they do turn this into a class?
Well, that's only with our permission. You can never be forced into a class,
right?
Ever. Okay. So I mean, obviously, if it comes down to that, and we're talking, this has got to happen in the next week. Although it's still unclear what the judge exactly wants us to do in that regard, people can always opt out. But I want to tell you, we want our clients to remain our clients so we continue to help you. Once you become a class member, you are part of that class. You're not part of our group. But if we win, and the judge made the point, ours is a final judgment. Ours is done. So the order in our case affects everybody else as well. So
there could be a separate. I mean, there could be a ruling in just for our plaintiffs first.
Well, no, it'll be a ruling that will impact our plaintiffs, but will be for everybody. There's not a first or a second. Now there is this. The judge will likely issue a two-part ruling in our case, as I see it. The first part is, hey, Department of State, because we asked them for this. Department of State, we want you to make best efforts to adjudicate as many cases as possible before the end of the year, fiscal year. That's ask 1A. Ask 1B is, if you have people consulates that are closed, make best efforts to get those people to consulates they can get to and process their cases as to plaintiffs. Okay, as to plaintiffs. And then the second part of the ask, part 2 of the case, will be, okay, you only got X number done. I'm going to reserve this number. I'm going to reserve this number. And the way that in the relief part of the case, this is the part Lily was not tweeting about, and James is not here. I didn't read James' tweets. I don't know if he understood it. And Aaron, were you listening during the relief part of the case? All right.
Yeah, I was.
Greg and I heard.
We were not expecting what the government lawyer had said like right before he said it. So we were both kind of caught by surprise, and we were not 100% sure what was said.
Because
my jaw hit the ground.
Well, let me talk about that, because my plan, and I had written out what we're going to offer, is this. We're not unrealistic, Judge. Okay, we realize that COVID is an issue in a lot of different countries. But we also realize the government clearly has made no effort to get around the COVID issue. So yes, I want you to reserve every unused visa, which you will know by September 30th, by the way. Reserve them all. But give Department of State 24 months to use those. So this gives them a chance to do all the go cases, which they're not going to touch until October 1, after October 1, the 10,000. And to handle DD 2022, because if you make Department of State do everything by Christmas, then that screws DD 2022. You want them to be able to do all of them, and this lets them space out the rest of DD 2021 over fiscal years 22 and 23. It will allow them to get that done. I thought that was a very fair proposal. I think that our co-counsel thought it was a fair proposal. I think
so they would be done by the end of fiscal year 2022. I wasn't sure whether it was the end of 2022 or 2023.
2023, to give them two fiscal years to get this done.
All right, so they essentially have then about 27 months.
Yeah, well, they're not. They've got 6,000 cases scheduled. They're not going to schedule many more. They're just not. I mean,
we haven't. Just to make it clear for people, there's no offer on the table. There's no anything. There's just it was just kind of thrown out by the government that they, and it was only in response to when they were really pushed to say, if you lose, like, what's your fallback?
Yeah. Well, keep in mind, what I just told you was my proposal. Now, what I heard the government say,
sounded pretty similar.
It was pretty similar, but Aaron, I think you may have heard what Aaron said. I thought the government said, give us 2 years, give us through 2023 to do that. But Aaron, did you hear that they would replace DV 2023 with these numbers? Is that what you heard?
Correct. So the proposal that they said was basically, if we lose, they said the only administrative way we can do this is by limiting it first to people who have been found documentarily qualified.
No way we agree to that. No,
exactly. And then also to start issuing the reserved visas after October of 2022, so during fiscal year 2023, and use that to partially replace the DV 2023.
That's what I thought, and Chuck said no. They would.
I did not hear. Maybe because maybe my jaw was on the ground. But I didn't hear him say that. But now that you both said it, I think that's exactly what he meant.
I don't see how that's remotely legal.
No, it's clearly not legal. They can't. They're going to get sued over that. Of course, they can't do that.
Yeah, I mean, I can't believe that they're asking the judge to usurp the whole Department of State selection process for DV 2023.
He's not going to do that.
No, and we have to figure out, by the way, how we're going to let the judge know that that's the stupidest proposal we've heard. We appreciate them realizing.
Well, the thing is that so do we, but we don't even actually have a proposal. So we have so I guess we're going to have to figure out how to convey that to the judge.
What Chuck said makes sense. You give them time to start making up these numbers and issuing the visas. It doesn't, we understand that they have other things going on too, but to say that it's impossible to sprinkle these in to their existing workload is just, it can't be true. And the idea that they're going to cancel a future lottery or partially cancel a future lottery to get these people issued, it's just it's crazy.
It's a ridiculous position to take.
You didn't believe me. You thought that was so outlandish. I'm pretty sure that's what I heard.
I can't believe somebody would suggest something that's that illegal.
Well, the other thing that we don't like about it, there's plenty not to like about that proposal, but the other thing is, what does it give them until October of 2022? It gives them time to appeal any order against them and try to not issue the visas at all.
Right.
With our proposal, people would start getting issued visas immediately starting this October.
If it was in the course of a settlement or something like that, then I guess that we don't have to worry about like appealing and all that.
You would think that they would not want to appeal this. Remember, they appealed the Gomez case and then dismissed the appeal. They appealed the PI and then they dismissed it.
Yeah. Now
that's interesting. I think it's because I don't know. Maybe they saw the panel they were going to get and said we're not going to have this panel.
Why don't we?
Law on this.
So why don't you also, Chuck, mention a little bit about the DV 2020s because there have been some concerns on social media that they were not considered, and actually there was quite a bit of time. Now it was mostly Cleland that was speaking most of the time to that issue. He's one of the Gomez lawyers, and I thought Cleland did a pretty good job as well on it. But that was the DV 2020. Where do you think we are with that?
On the DV 2020 case, first of all, let me explain. The Gomez case is a class action authorized by the judge, and Cleland is the class's lawyer. That's why Cleland argued the vast majority of that case. Let's be clear. And we only have 12 plaintiffs left in the Acker case, all from Belarus, and they would have all gotten their visas if they could have got the freak out of Belarus in September. Yeah. The other part of our case is another class for people that got visas before March 20th, but then couldn't leave, and then couldn't get the visas reissued in September. And that's probably several hundred people. And there's 12 plaintiffs. There's 6 plaintiffs in that class in the case, but they're in the Kennedy portion of the case of Curtis and Raphael's case. So as far as Gomez is concerned, the other thing that I argued, and I'd love to see, Greg, what your impression was of the judge's reaction to my request, my statement that his calculation on numbers was wrong and that he should increase the numbers that he reserved. Were you paying attention to the judge's face when I said that?
Yeah, I mean, his eyebrows were raised because I don't think he was, that he was anticipating that was going to be coming up, but I didn't think he reacted like in a way that was, I think he was curious as far as like what, why.
Well, and the statement was, the court made that decision because they felt that COVID had really impacted the ability of the state. When we knew from further actions by state less than a week later that no, they're just not going to do it. They just use it as an excuse. I think that could put a light bulb on him. Now, I don't know if he's going to increase the numbers, but if he does, hallelujah. We need that that'll help a lot of different people. So Gomez, Acker, DV 2020, I think you're in great shape. I mean, I think that the order from the judge will order them to begin issuing those visas post haste. I don't think he's going to have a 24-month period for the DV 2020 lottery. They should be start issuing October 1, in my opinion. And keep in mind, they stopped, as of September 30th, they stopped processing any new DV 2020 cases. So I don't know if they have 9,000 people. I don't know who's interview ready. I don't know if they tossed those cases. I have no idea what they did. But you've got great class representation on that. I think you're going to be in good shape. Now, by the way, I do want to mention the only reason I could make the arguments made yesterday is because Aaron wrote amazing briefs. Aaron did all the real work in this case. And I simply stood on his shoulders. It was awesome work.
Well, that's not true. It's been a team effort. But the other thing that I wanted to mention that I think we're getting questions on is what about the problem consulates? And I think, Chuck, that you did a deft job of weaving that in and making sure that the judge heard about issues in Cairo and in Moscow and other places.
I think it surprised him. His reaction was kind of one of, really? Mm-hmm. And the government, of course, objected right away. They said, well, Judge, we can't be held responsible for. I said, but Judge, they actually told people they're going to do this, and they did this last year. So the judge, the thing you have to understand about judges, they can't micromanage a government agency. They give a general order and let the government figure it out. But if part of that general order is to figure out a way to get people, Moscow, Cuba, Tehran, Baghdad, Nepal, into places that they can be adjudicated, they should do that. So I think the point was made. And sometimes you're arguing to the court. Sometimes you're sending a message to opposing counsel. They are clear now about what our settlement parameters would be if they choose to settle this case. If they were wise, they would settle this case because then there would be no binding precedent against them.
Why won't they settle?
Because they are so fixated on their authority under the statute that they can't imagine that they've been wrong for 70 years. And I even mentioned that to the judge. They've been doing it for 7 years. They've been doing it wrong for 70 years. Nobody's challenged them before. That was actually one of my favorite parts of the government's argument in the Go case was, well, Judge, the Supreme Court said this. And then when Lily pointed out, when he read that, they didn't say that. That's how Trump versus Hawaii simply doesn't say what you think it should say because it wasn't addressed by the court. It wasn't before them. So.
Well, I thought the best part was the judge was quite familiar with what the case said and actually read out to them a section of the case that directly contradicted what the government lawyer was saying.
I think the judge has read the Trump Hawaii case many times. Many times. All right. So the big question is, all right, Aaron, Jonna, Lily, Greg, when is the judge making a decision?
Well,
today he was taking pleas in the January 6th insurrection cases. So
he was, last year in Gomez, he took 6 weeks.
Yeah. And what lesson did we learn in Enunciado, Aaron?
Make him never.
don't bet on the timeline.
Don't bet on the timeline. Remember,
but I will say this. I mean, since yesterday, he's issued orders wanting a little bit of additional information on standing. Yesterday, I think he issued an order about the class certification agreement, a potential agreement. And I think everything he's issuing is due within a week or so. So it's apparent he gets the timeline, and I think he wants to move. Now, does that mean it's going to happen in a week or two? I doubt it. It's probably going to take longer than that. But I think he wants to move quickly on this.
He might be writing his decision already and just going through these formalities so that he can, for what Chuck said. So it may be faster. I agree.
So, by the way, yesterday, the courtroom next to us was the courtroom of the first sentencing of an insurrectionist. It's literally right next door. Lots of cameras outside. Kind of fun stuff.
That was a little odd.
But look, the judge, on the flip side, if the judge is ordering reservations of visas and the government is in fact scheduling people, I don't think he feels the pressure to do something like he did last year when they were saying, we're not going to admit anybody. Have a nice day. So there's less pressure on that. Along with the fact, if you recall in the status conference we had with him, his August is completely full. He says, I can't do it. And I'm completely booked in August. I got nothing. So either we get this late July, early August, or we don't get it till September. I don't know which. So please don't ask us. We simply do not know. And we have learned that we have terrible prophetic abilities. But I do know, I'm still very confident about the judge's decision, both in Go and in Gomez. I think the DV goes on. I think you have hope. Now, don't ask us about numbers either, because I'm not the number guy. You have a number question, you go to YouTube channel for Britt Simon Says, and you ask him, because he's our expert, although the government didn't think he was an expert. I
know. It was so insulting. It's like, this is the guy. This is the guy who knows the numbers better than anybody on the planet.
Not Paul Simon. Don't get them. I thought it was pretty funny. The judge didn't laugh, but I thought it was kind of keep a little levity in the courtroom. So, by the way, the courtroom, physically the courtroom, you have to understand, you probably saw the judge. Well, you didn't see the judge. That's right.
I didn't see anything.
Federal courtrooms in the United States are imposing things. 30-foot ceilings, paneled walls, giant marble walls.
Important thing.
A clock with no hands. I don't know how you tell time on that thing. Big jury area. I mean, it's an imposing, intimidating place to be. But everywhere is plexiglass. In front of the judge, in front of the clerks. So it kind of took away from the intimidation of the place, because you're behind your little plexiglass screens. But at least we didn't have to wear masks. That was great in the courtroom. All right. Anything else? Anybody else want to add on Go or Gomez? And we'll get to some questions here in a second. It's 87 comments. Oh, my goodness. I do want to get to a couple things. Lily, do you want to update us on the London case?
We filed yesterday evening our amended complaint, which was just to add a couple of plaintiffs and fix a couple of typos. So welcome to our new London couples. The filing of the amended complaint doesn't change the timeline. So right now we're still, just waiting on the government's response by late August, early September, I think. Last week, we saw that a bunch of our London plaintiffs were getting notices either from the consulate that their cases were being requested from NVC, and some even got the notice that their case was transferred from NVC. And then within 24 hours, a lot of folks were getting either an email saying, just kidding, or saying, not just kidding, something politer than that, but basically saying, just because you're a plaintiff in a lawsuit doesn't mean anything special, which is true. They don't have the obligation to treat plaintiffs differently at the beginning of the case while there's no, judge order telling them to do anything specific. But it sounds like people were getting inconsistent messages, the consulate telling them they'd requested the case and the NVC saying that they hadn't sent it yet. So please do continue using the update form to tell me about those things. It's helpful, for the further stages of the case to show either that they're incompetent or, not working with each other, the NVC and the consulate, not clear. I don't really understand I don't have a detailed theory for what actually happened there. Do you folks?
No, I've done this a long time. Government is run by people. People make mistakes. That just happened. Unfortunately, it impacts real people's lives. So I don't know what's happening there, but good job on that case, Lily. By the way, the filing of the amended complaint impacts no timeline. It's no timeline. So how close are we to the 60th day, Lily, if you happen to know?
I was just saying, I think it's the end of August or beginning of September. I don't have the date on the tip of my tongue. It took us a couple days to get it served to the government.
I expect a motion to dismiss on that day 60. That seems to be their new work du jour as opposed to an answer.
And by now, that's what we're seeing on all of we know what their motion to dismiss looks like.
Yes, and they will say we sued the wrong people because we didn't sue the individual examiners.
This time we did.
That was great yesterday, by the way.
This time I served Jane Doe.
Consular officers? I don't even understand that. How is that even possible?
And this
it
is
was-
great because they're saying it's within the discretion of each consular officer. The State Department has nothing to do with this. And also, this is State Department's policy, and you can't tell us what to do because we run our own agency.
That's great. So Jane Doe,
People.
Jane. All right. So that's our process.
Jane Doe, the
That's
consular.
who we,
Yes,
who
we-
we sue going forward.
In addition to Blinken and the Department of State, we sued the Chief of Mission and the
Non-immigrant-
Jane,
immigrant
Jane's
visa chief.
Doe's, the
Yeah.
general consular officers of unknown
These
name
are
and
things
unknown
the
number.
government does when they don't have good arguments.
All right, so I want to talk Kinsley for a second. Kinsley is now fully briefed and fully joint appendixed, and we are literally now either waiting for an oral argument or waiting for a decision from the judge in that case. So we did find, and the government in their reply brief included an affidavit in regards to all the remaining plaintiffs in Kinsley. And I want to just tell you what they said in that because it's really interesting. They went through every single plaintiff in the case. And she said, let's see if I can get down to the bottom here. This is from Courtney Patterson, who's from the Office of the Legal Advisor. They got everybody working on these cases at this point. She said this. There are 183 what they call visa applicants in Kinsley. 183 different people. 10 cases, 88 have received an adjudication. Almost all of them are granted. 10 have an interview in the next 30 days. 3 withdrew their cases. 91 have not yet been adjudicated. 6 non-immigrant and 85 immigrant. Of the 85 immigrant cases not yet adjudicated, she said, no case has been documentarily complete over 2 years. Well, because they approved those cases, all right? 1 case has been pending 18 to 24 months as documentarily qualified. 14 have been between 12 and 18 months, 12 between 6 to 12, and 58 less than 6 months. So this is designed to tell the judge, well, it's not really that big an emergency. There's only 1 person's been pending for 2 years. So we'll see. I think we got a great case in front of that judge, and looking forward to the decision. But that's Kinsley is now fully briefed, and Kinsley, by the way, was a kind of an everybody case. There was immigrants, non-immigrants. And Kinsley was not a mandamus. It was challenging the proclamations and 212F. So we'll see what the judge does with this. I feel pretty confident that the judge is going to, I think, ultimately rule in our favor. That's kind of where we are. I want to give a brief update on EB-5 Fong because people have asked me today. Right now, there's no movement. It's in D.C., no movement, which is where it needs to be because there is no EB-5 Regional Center program. So we best let it sleep, and we'll see what happens as soon as Congress reinstates the program. Our K1 Moscow case, this is Ponomarenko. Again, we're literally approaching the time that we should have. I'm kind of looking over here if I can find the case in my. I can't find it that quick. What the date is, but I know we're coming up really quick on the date, and I expect the government to file a motion to dismiss in that case. Although they're going to be hard charged with that because they're not making any efforts to move anybody. So I think we're in good shape there. K1 Manila. Anybody want to comment on K1 Manila? Certainly, that's just not me.
They are not moving forward with our plaintiffs' cases almost at all. Same thing with the Milligan.
We did find
Manila plaintiffs.
there was a Milligan Manila person who had a.
Yes, it was.
So there was
One.
the first. That's the first person so far that's actually been processed.
Do we know, was it an expedite or a special? What kind of situation
No.
was that?
John?
To be fair, that was a Milligan round 2 plaintiff, not a Manila K1 case, not a Ramirez client.
Right, but it
Right,
was
but
the
do we
first
know-
Manila, I mean, it was the first Milligan round 2 person
Mhm.
on there. We've had, I mean, so that was good. Obviously, that's not enough, but I mean, it was like at least that streak has has ended.
Well, that's a good sign, right? That they're finally getting the cases. Now they did have that we talked about this last week, that condescending video. Yeah, we're really busy. We'll get to your case eventually. It'll take a really long time. Have a nice day. Hey, let's go to the party, kind of thing. So I think we've got. Let's see, open up here. Those are coming up. I want to pull up, and I do apologize for not having this ready. I thought I did. But I want to pull up where we are on the Ramirez case, if it'll let me into the docket.
I sent everyone the government's reply to our opposition to their motion to dismiss that they filed last Friday.
Now, that's the wrong one. That's interesting. Wrong Ramirez case. I have another Ramirez case I just sued on, and so I pulled up the wrong one here. Let's see. That's the Ramirez case. So I just filed that. How did I just file that? There's no way I just filed that case. So in the Ramirez case, that complaint is okay. So the government's replied to the motion to dismiss, and we should be getting an argument in front of the judge in this case, or decision, relatively soon. This is Judge Christopher Cooper, who have not appeared in front of any cases. So the motion to dismiss, which is the first part of the case, which will then, once we prevail, we'll file the motion for summary judgment. That should have a decision relatively soon. We can't, again, it's like the other case, you can't predict when that will be. Sorry. I meant to put Manila up. So it's K1 Manila Ramirez case, fully briefed as of last Friday. And we're just waiting on the judge to either ask for a hearing or set a hearing or issue a decision on the motion to dismiss. So we're going to go from there. I think we're in pretty good shape on that one. I do want to go back to the Moscow case, because now that I've got this up, I can take a look at it. And we're expecting let's see, 517, amended complaints 520. Government, we gave the government, again, this is Joe Carilli. It's the same guy. We got Joe on like 4 cases. I respect Joe. He's a good man. He's a good lawyer. He's fair. And so we granted him an extra week. His response was due yesterday during our hearing. And I gave him an extra week to respond to the complaint. Now, he's probably going to file a motion to dismiss. I get it. But I'm not going to jerk government counsel around. I know everybody's anxious, but there's also how we relate to government counsel is important to us in this case and in future cases. And we don't want to look like jerks to the judge, too. You know, we're asking for really an equitable solution. We want to look like we're honorable doing good stuff. So
I have to say, Joe has been very helpful in where he can be in trying to resolve individual plaintiffs' issues. And, so I think he deserves a little deference.
Yeah, and he did a great job yesterday. I think he argued a very difficult case. I think he argued it very well. He's only been at the U.S. Attorney's Office for a couple of years, but Joe spent a long time as a JAG in the I forget, maybe the Navy as a lawyer. So there we are with Ponomarenko, and I just want to let everybody know that's kind of where we are on that one. On the Rio case, that's Penn. Is that right, Lily?
That's correct.
All right, Jonna, you got that. So the Rio case, just to give everybody an idea where we are, the reply to the motion to dismiss was filed on 7/13. So we're waiting on that judge, and that judge is Judge Timothy Kelly. Good judge, strong judge, by the way, very strong judge. So we're waiting on that decision from the judge in the Rio case, and then we can move forward on the motion for summary judgment. So lots of stuff going on. We do have news today on K1 Cairo, didn't we? Anybody see that email? Was it just me? Oh, mine's just me and Jeff. So every K1, apparently every K1 in Cairo, every K1 was sent to the consulate. That means all the family base, all the K1s are in Cairo waiting for interview. And since Cairo's not interviewing DV people, they should be interviewing you folks. So that's a good news there. Aaron, I got to ask you, hey, did you enjoy that decision in Annunziato?
The what now?
Yeah, you didn't. It's a joke. The decision in Annunziato, did you enjoy that?
The fancy decision.
No, there is no decision in Annunziato. We're still patiently waiting for what's going to happen there. I'm surprised government counsel hasn't reached out to you again and say, do you want to dismiss now?
Yeah, that was last week.
Yeah, no. So it's been with the judge for 7 weeks. So I don't know. That's kind of there. And on the Milligan case, let me pull up that as well. In the Milligan case, I have another screen here that I'm looking at. So I guess I should put it in front of me so you can see me, but instead of looking at my right ear, but it's a very good right ear. In the Milligan case, we are that case is stayed as of this time. The motion to dismiss filed by all plaintiffs, reply in opposition. So that's fully briefed as of June 17th, and we're waiting there as well. So lots of stuff going on all these cases that have been pending for a while, and we're just waiting on, I hope, a slew of very positive decisions. An update on H-1B lottery abuse. The plan is to file the preliminary injunction on Thursday. I'm revising it right now. I was revising it before we got on the call today. And that's going to go in. My co-counsel here and all others in our firms will be looking at this, putting together our best argument. And Jana, you are working on this great piece of litigation as well, aren't you?
I am working on this great piece of litigation. So as we work on the complaint, we are still open for onboarding. So if people are interested in joining for that, we've asked that they do that by Thursday at noon. We are finalizing the complaint and still opening to our litigation team's comments and perfections so that we have that right when it's filed. And I think we're looking to do that late this week, maybe early next week.
Before I'm gone on my bike.
Yeah, exactly. And
there we go. Before Greg goes on his bike.
We're going to be doing a preliminary injunction very quickly. As soon as we get that complaint filed, it'll probably take another week or so. But there's some really good arguments here, isn't there, Jana? There's
give us a preview.
Give us a preview.
Yes. So we got pretty interesting with this. So I'm presuming those who are joining the EB adjustment of status complaint are pretty familiar with the employment-based system in terms of numbers and how that category benefits from rolled over visas from the unused family-based category numbers. So we are, like many of our lawsuits, asking for relief through mandamus, citing unreasonable delays just on the fact that these have been pending with no decision. And we're also asking for relief for the fact that those delays are unreasonable. So the more creative argument that we're also arguing is that the way USCIS interprets the visa being used, the language being a little bit tricky because in the United States it's a adjustment of status application, but we're comparing that language from the regulation to the same language used in the H-1B regulation. And for those of you familiar with how the H-1B lottery system works, when you file for a H-1B petition, that number is reserved at the time of filing. If your petition is then denied, that number goes back into the pot to be used by someone else. So how we are arguing this is that the same regulatory language is used for both the H-1B context and the adjustment of status employment-based context. And the fact that they are using the numbers differently is arbitrary and capricious. So we want some consistency, and what that would do is enable people filing their adjustment of status applications to reserve a number at the time of filing. So that kind of would alter, we wouldn't we wouldn't see retrogression, meaning people filing their application and then no longer having the ability to have those applications approved. So
And it would
it's a little
mean
bit
that
in the
the
weeds.
fiscal year isn't the deadline, right? It would mean that people who filed when the visa bulletin was current, their applications can be pending beyond September 30th.
Right,
Because
and they
they've
can pull
already
the visa
reserved their
number. They can
number.
pull the visa number and therefore preserve those numbers for use in the EB category at the front end of the or much earlier in the process than they do.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's an easy solution for USCIS so that this doesn't happen, and hopefully they'll come to that on their own without the
Wait
litigation.
a second, John. Are you arguing that words have meaning?
What?
We're arguing for
Words have meaning, and do they have the same meaning in the same statutory context? By the way,
One thing that Chuck and I yesterday when we were in DC in court, apparently the Charlie check-in on YouTube, the Charlie Oppenheim monthly YouTube happened, and he says on there that he's expecting 100,000 visas to be wasted. So that's probably useful.
Wait,
So,
how is that only 100,000? Have any of you?
well, but I mean, I think it's the first time we've had State Department on the record saying that they see what's happening. They see what's happening.
We're all employment-based lawyers. Have you gotten a slew of adjustment of status on EB cases in the last month?
No.
I've got nothing.
Yeah.
Who's getting approved? I mean, how are they using any of these numbers? Keep in mind, they're not using EB-5 numbers either. So that's another probably 6,000 or 7,000 numbers that they're not using. I think the number is going to be like 150 at the end of the day. I just don't see them getting approved. I'm seeing no adjustments coming down. And we have a lot of cases pending, as I'm sure all of you do. So unless it's magically happening in the ether sphere somewhere, I think Charlie is being demure in the numbers he's looking at as far as that. All right. We're excited. It's going to be fun litigation. It's going to be fun litigation. And now we will be filing that, Jonna, if I'm not mistaken, in the U.S. District Court in Maryland. Is that right?
That's correct. That's based on USCIS having moved their headquarters to Maryland in December.
The majority
We're all going to be pro hac vice in that one because I don't think any of us are admitted to Maryland.
Jeff is literally has to fly out and he will get admitted. Maybe he'll fly down from his vacation and get admitted there on the way home. But in the meantime, we'll probably use a colleague there that'll help us with that. Let's look at some questions here. We've really blown through a lot of stuff. We answered a lot of questions. But by the way, I have a YouTube tomorrow. I mean, a YouTube and a Facebook Live. I'll answer a lot of these questions during mine. You've got one tomorrow too, don't you, Aaron?
We're Thursday at 2 Eastern.
2 Eastern. Mine's at 2 Eastern as well. So you can either one of us will answer these. Greg, you had yours? You got one?
We had ours today. Next week, I will be unavailable, and I'm hoping that that maybe Jonna will talk a little bit about the filed EB case on our Facebook next week with whatever guests that she wants to have with her.
Great. And we'll be here, of course, on Monday. We'll be back on Monday night, by the way. So first, Trey, thank you very much. You didn't see the PowerPoint, but, and this is again, grateful to the people that put this stuff together for us.
It was impressive.
Last year, if you count the reserved numbers and the numbers issued, it's 25,000. Okay, so the judge reserved 9,000 numbers. Using his exact same formula, which I explained to the judge was flawed, but using the exact same formula, he would have to reserve 38,000 visas. So yeah, we're going to get a lot more than 9,095. Okay. Apparently the Avengers are back. Thank you very much. I don't want to be Batman.
Avengers are Marvel.
Batman's not an Avenger.
I'm a DC guy.
Are
so
you a
Batman
DC guy?
I like.
Well, if I'm a DC guy, I'm Superman. I'm sorry. I'm not, the whole Batman Robin thing, I'm not really quite sure about.
I'm an Aquaman guy.
Gold plaintiff, haven't received a scheduling email. Look, if you haven't gotten a scheduling email by now, time's running out for this fiscal year, which is why the reservation of visas, which we've always talked about, is key. So be patient. All right. Penn, U.S. released their June visa numbers, 411 student visas and 56K. Now, keep in mind, 106 spousal visas. Keep in mind, student visas are done by a different unit. They're not done by the immigrant visa unit. So there's different people who do that. Now, could they do both? Yes, of course they could do both. But just a different unit. So again, that's pending. We're waiting on the judge. Do you think the King plaintiff emails about case requests are accurate, as most are at the NVC? You guys, any idea what a King plaintiff is?
Yeah, that's the
The London folks who got the emails from.
We talked about that already.
Yeah, sorry. Duh. That was a brain spasm. Is that King versus King? That is like Kramer versus Kramer. We did fix the name, by the way.
They finally fixed it.
Fixed the name. We got our folks from Grumarko from Serbia on. Expect anything for Kinsley K1s? Yes, we're expecting the judge to issue an order that says the holdup was.
I think that could come actually sooner than you think.
I think that's going to be quick because the judge actually, we had to ask for more time to get the record in because it was due yesterday, and neither government or counsel us could do it. So we said we wanted an extension. We agreed to an extension. He said, "Okay, we have till today." So we got it in today. Can cases be started again? They've adjudicated. We have Go plaintiffs that have their green cards that have entered the United States, so they're already doing that. Thank you. Not a great lawyer. We are a great team of lawyers is what we're doing. Let's see. Thank you, Sonny. I'm impressed with these people too. They're absolutely amazing. One possible relief was adjudicate visa for some to go places with documentary, of course, but there's not that many documentarily qualified. They randomly do it. Now, the point that I made yesterday, I think is important, is they kept saying cases are processed in rank order. And I just clear the judge, that is literally not true. It's just literally not true. Cases are done whenever they want to do the cases. Now, if they're saying they do them in number order after they're documentarily qualified, that's also not true. We know that's legally not true. Now, how do we prove that? Well, if you, as a listener here today, are documentarily qualified and you know people ahead of you with higher numbers than you that have gotten their interviews, you need to email Aaron and I, okay? We might want your declaration as part of this. Okay. Yes, KCC was terrible. My understanding, plaintiff's relief, correct. How many documentary qualified are there in a go? I have no idea. Aaron, you don't have any idea, do you? How many documentarily qualified Go plaintiffs there are? We don't have any idea.
No, we don't know.
Relief for plaintiffs who are not going to be qualified. At the moment, you wait until we win this case.
Questions to Sonny?
Well, he had 3 questions. Okay. The next step. Oh, that's a great question, Nadja. What's the next step? Well, that's a good question. Because the judge threw in this at the very last minute, whole class action thing. I think the government would like us to talk about if he rules against the government, what would they be agreeable to on a settlement? I think, because he kept saying, there's a lot of smart people in this room. Figure it out. But we're too close to the argument. Let's wait a couple days. You have to understand, by the way, who was in the courtroom from the government. They had 9 lawyers there yesterday.
Plus their bosses were watching.
And their bosses were physically there. Now, I don't know if anybody from state was actually there, but they had 9 lawyers in that room. They actually had more lawyers than we did. So now, not counting the ones online, but so their bosses were there. This is a big deal case. So we need to give them a little breathing room for a day or two, and then we'll reach out. We'll reach out to Joe and say, you heard what went on. You're not going to win this case. What can you guys do? What can we agree on? So we'll go from there. Why didn't we find a joint appendix getting expert record until now? Because the joint, I don't know which case you're talking about, but the joint appendix isn't due until after the briefing is complete. Okay. Plus, the government controls the joint appendix. They have access. They have all the data. What we submit is just really part of the government record. So that's why. Let's see. Will the judge wait for the good luck case first? We can go and go. He's going to issue all these decisions at one time. But keep in mind, we're the only case that's final. Everybody else is a preliminary injunction. So technically, I guess he could issue the preliminary injunction first and then the final decision later. I guess he could do that. So the answer is I don't know. what order he's going to do that in. Wow, I just jumped ahead to 114 questions here. A lot of questions, and I just lost my place. I do forgive me.
You're just going to have to pick some random ones.
I clearly heard you ask the judge to adjudicate documentary. No, you didn't hear me say that. That's not what I told. That wasn't me talking about that. Doesn't matter to me whether anybody's documentarily qualified or not. They need to figure out and get people documentarily qualified and do it for the end of the year. That was my position. In the DHS appropriations bill, there is Representative Meng's amendment. Yes, there is.
Yeah.
That was in. Hey, Greg, a question. Was that in last year's bill too?
It was in last year's DHS funding bill, and when it got over to the Senate, it was taken out. I would say at this point, obviously it's different than last year as far as the makeup of the Senate, but I actually I've tried to reach out to friends on the House Immigration Subcommittee to get a little bit more information on that, because there are some administration problems with Meng's amendment, which we were trying to figure out. Like, for example,
come from state.
What happens for the, it does stuff other than for the DV stuff. It's great on there. It just basically preserves all those numbers. For the family and employment stuff, it tries to basically turn the clock back. The problem is some people have already gotten their employment-based adjustments approved. Not a lot, otherwise we wouldn't be suing. But for those people, the Meng amendment, it's totally unclear what happens to somebody who's actually been issued a visa. Are they clawing back those numbers and basically taking people's green cards away? It's very unclear.
So
it's not very
saying the legislation is inartfully drafted.
Well, the problem is it was drafted before the fiscal year ended. The DV 2020 the fiscal year 2020 ended, and it would have been workable up until September 30th of last year. But it doesn't look like they changed the language to account for the fact that numbers already rolled over, and it doesn't explain what happens to those numbers afterwards and to those people. So nobody from the committee has come back with me, which means that they are probably trying to figure out how to fix it.
All right, Nunciato, go plaintiff. Look, here's the deal. If you haven't heard back from the Kentucky Consular Center, either on your DS-260 submission or your documents, you need to be emailing them. How many times have we said this? You need to be emailing them. You need to be on top of them at least weekly, saying, I sent this in March. Why aren't I documentarily qualified? And if you have a due DS-260 letter, send your documents in now. And by the way, if you are DV 2022, you should be doing all this stuff now and sending your documents. Do not wait. I feel much better having said that. Let's see. A lot of the same questions which you've answered, all about DQ. Ramirez, what if our document is not listed in the State Department spreadsheet? What do we do? Notify us. Let us know who you are, and we'll see about getting that fixed. Okay.
I've gotten emails from a couple of you asking me to confirm. I haven't had a chance to reply to everybody because I redacted your names, but you can see the list of dates. So let me know.
Oh, this is great, Jack. If you would contact Aaron and I separately, so we can. This is actually great that you've been documentarily qualified since last year and have not been scheduled for interview. That is great, because that goes right to the heart of the case. We definitely use that. Judge asked about, by the way, the judge asked about standing in all the cases. Let's see. Lots of people. Somebody loves the dot sign. Somebody, look, really only send one question and we'll get to it. Canada, Waleed, I know you've sent me the information in Montreal again. Contact us separately. We'll tell you what we need once we figure out what the judge wants us to have in there. Thank you, Puda. That's you, Hamza. You're going to get yourself barred. Lily even told me to stop spamming. Thank you, Lily. Let's see. Is it still worth calling the NBC if they keep saying it's up to the London Embassy to do a paperwork request case? Yes. Although I would email them both, because that creates the paper trail, which then lets us go to the court when enforcement time comes, say, look, judge, you can't. I mean, you've got to step in here. So calling is not as good as emailing. Both of them on the same email. So that would be great. Let's see.
When Chuck says both on the same email, he means copy both the consulate and the NVC on the same email so they can't reply to you and each tell you that it's the other's fault.
All right. Would I have picked Judge Trevor McFadden to hear this case? No, of course not. But that doesn't mean we can't win the case. Judge McFadden is a judge. He's a fair judge, relatively younger judge. He did issue recently a terrible decision.
I think is he a Trump appointee? I think a Trump appointee might be the right kind of judge for
I don't think it's bad
on there, because this is about H-1B abuse, and this is of all the cases, I'm least concerned about a Trump judge on that case.
Yeah, and remember, the case is about statutory language. This is right up the alley of somebody from the Federalist Society. The statutes mean what they say. Yeah. And the whole H-1B case, abuse case, is about language. So, no, Vignesh, I feel fine about that. Let's see. We answered a lot of these Go questions up front. We have 933 plaintiffs. That's everybody, by the way. That's derivatives and everybody. At least 933. So yeah, that's our total. Reduced because we have some people that have gotten it. So I don't know how many that we have off the top of my head we've had, but we have gotten a lot of people. Some people gotten approved. Let's see. A lot of stuff here. Let's see. A court update in the Go case right now. Really? Right now? Let's see.
No, I think that's referring to the request that we file the documents on standing. And so you already explained that.
Yeah, that's right. We already talked about that, dude. Come on, man. Stay ahead of the curve. We got this. The reason around 2 plaintiff in Milligan was getting interviewed because of a canceled interview. Well, they're not the only person with a canceled interview. So let's see what we can do with that. Let's see. Charlie Opp and I mentioned yesterday in the chat that USC is on track. Oh, yeah. Okay. We already talked about that. Thank you, Greg, for catching that. Any estimate of whether or when there would be a second lottery for H-1B? Oh, there's going to be one. I mean,
the only question is how many.
Greg, they only notified like 70,000 winners, right?
They almost have to, because I mean, it assumes that people don't withdraw, that everybody that got notified will file an application and be approved. That's not going to happen.
We know from our evidence that one guy got approved 6 times. So we know they're not going to use all those. So it's not only did they not notify on the normal denial rate, but that they just don't ignore the fact that multiple applications got filed.
Yeah, there will be a substantial second lottery.
Yeah, I think so too. Okay. If a visa number is assigned before adjudication, when did it spill over? That's the key. Visa numbers aren't assigned before adjudication. Visa numbers are only assigned after adjudication.
Right. We're pointing that out to the judge that it's something that they should be doing.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think this person is saying maybe that family, John and I talked about this a little bit, that, if it were to work that way, that on the other side, there wouldn't be spillover.
Oh, for spillover for next year. Well, I mean, I guess that's possible.
One question is, how does a lawsuit of people whose prior dates are not current? Well, if you're not current and all of a sudden they lose 100,000 visas, that's a whole bunch of years that are not going to become current next year. Mm-hmm. So it helps you by recapturing all these numbers, freezing them in place. And keep in mind, if only 100,000 come over, well, they're going to lose. How many are coming from family? Did Charlie mention that? Because that's got to be 150,000. That's got to be huge. So, instead of adjudicating 140 next year, we keep 100, which is a generous. That's 240. Another 100, 150 come over. Now you got 350 to 400,000 that they can adjudicate. That's every single pending adjustment on EB2 and 3, and then adding a couple of year more of adjustment applications. So this is a big deal for those who who aren't quite current yet. As far as following to join, so your mom and dad got theirs and you didn't get yours? Well, if you're outside the country, you're still covered. Oh, that's also one point. When we win this lawsuit, these are for consular processing. You're not going to be able to adjust status.
Right, we didn't sue USCIS.
2021 in the United States. You're going to have to consular process. So just know that. Why did you not require priority for Go plaintiffs? Oh, that might be because that's not possible. Maybe that's it. The reality is priority is irrelevant. They're not going to get to 1,000 of our cases before the end of the year. That's why reservation is so important and getting the visas eventually is. Thank you for a great question. Let's see. Let's take one last more. Engineer, should she prepare her travel bag? Good vibes, baby. Good vibes. We're going to work on that. All right, everybody. We want to thank everybody for joining us today. It's been great. We'll be back next Monday night. We'll be here. Greg won't be here. He'll be biking across Iowa. Great ski resorts, by the way. If you're not from the United States, you want to go skiing, you definitely want to go skiing in Iowa. Iowa, amazing ski resorts. Aaron, anything else to add before we chow out of here?
No, come out skiing in Colorado when you get here.
Yeah, okay. You go to Colorado too, or Utah, if the whole state doesn't burn down. Lily, you have anything to add?
Don't come to Memphis to ski.
But you do come for the barbecue and the blues.
Yes.
Jonna, do you have anything to add?
Nope. Join the EB adjustment of status case. I'll be in touch.
Yeah, I mean, if you got a case pending and you want to get adjudicated, this is also a mandamus case. So join us. All right, everybody, have a great week. We will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.